It was Memorial Day weekend, and my friends and I had decided to rent a lakefront house for a fun getaway, about 3 hours from home. The house was located deep in the woods of North Carolina, which made it affordable. The group included Sarah, Jess, Megan, Jack, Ben, and me. We all piled into Ben's truck, excited for a weekend of relaxation, drinks, and good times. I had found the house on Airbnb, and what really attracted me to it was the large deck with a hot tub overlooking the lake, as well as a cozy fire pit surrounded by Adirondack chairs. It seemed like the perfect setting for a weekend of drinks and laughter by the water. The Airbnb host left us instructions to find a hidden key behind the mailbox, which we used to unlock the front gate. The gravel driveway cut through a thick patch of trees before opening up to a clearing where the house sat. Ben parked the truck near the wraparound deck, a great feature that gave us easy access to the house from any side. The first thing I did was head to the back deck to take in the breathtaking view of the lake. It was so peaceful, but little did I know how that peace would soon be shattered. Once we unpacked, we immediately got into the spirit of the weekend. Drinks were poured, and we wasted no time diving into games like beer pong and cornhole. We barbecued, cranked up the music, and laughed non-stop. Since we were isolated in the woods with no nearby neighbors, or so we thought, we didn't care about the noise. With barely any phone reception, we were completely in the moment, enjoying each other's company. As night fell, we gathered around the fire pit, drinks in hand. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a voice broke through the sounds of the night. A middle-aged woman with short, scruffy hair appeared at the edge of the woods, yelling at us to lower our music. She had an air of frustration and looked rough around the edges. One of the girls turned down the volume, but the woman kept going, ranting about how people like us came to the lake, leaving litter and making noise. Her attitude was so abrasive, it felt like we were being scolded by a stranger from a bad neighborhood. I quickly apologized on behalf of the group, but when we asked her if she lived nearby, she dodged the question. With one last irritated look, she disappeared back into the woods. We were left scratching our heads after the odd encounter, but after a few moments, we brushed it off and tried to shake the uneasy feeling. However, the encounter definitely put a damper on the mood. Still, after a few more drinks, the music went back up, and we resumed our party, thinking that was the end of it. Later that evening, as we were enjoying a quiet moment between songs, we suddenly heard a voice calling for help from the lake. It was faint, but unmistakable. Someone was in trouble. We quickly turned off the music to listen more closely. The voice cried out, "Help!" We exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of what to do. I called out into the darkness asking, "Who's out there? Are you in the water?" The reply came again, "Yes, help!" Panic set in, and adrenaline took over. Ben and I noticed a kayak leaning against the deck and immediately decided to take it out onto the lake to search for the person. As we paddled into the darkness, the voice seemed to move further away, like it was retreating into the night. The lake was pitch black, with only the faint glow of the house lights in the distance. After what felt like 10 minutes of paddling, the voice abruptly stopped, leaving us alone in the eerie silence of the lake. Just as we were about to turn back, gut-wrenching screams pierced the night. It sounded like multiple women screaming in terror, coming from the direction of the house. Our hearts raced as we paddled back as fast as we could, yelling for our friends. When we reached the shore, we frantically searched the house and surrounding area, but all 4 of them were gone, vanished without a trace. We tried calling and texting them, but none of our phones had service. Ben's truck was still parked outside, adding to the confusion. Desperate and afraid, Ben and I jumped into his truck and drove down the dark, winding road in search of help. We came across a house similar to ours, hidden in the woods. The lights were on, so we rang the doorbell repeatedly. When no one answered, we peered through the window and froze in terror. Inside the living room stood the same rough-looking woman who had yelled at us earlier. She was completely still, staring directly at us through the window with a look of pure anger. We yelled for help, but she didn't budge. Terrified, we ran back to the truck. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Jack. I quickly answered, asking where they were. He frantically explained that 2 men wearing masks and carrying axes had emerged from the woods, forcing them to run. The girls screamed and they all fled down the road. Jack said one of them had managed to call 911 before the line disconnected. Not long after, we spotted flashing police lights in the distance and waved them down. We explained everything to the officers, and thankfully, we soon found our friends hiding in the woods. After reuniting, the police escorted us back to the house to gather our belongings. There were no signs of a break-in, and nothing had been stolen. The police investigated the cries for help from the lake, but by then, we were all too eager to leave. After a long battle with Airbnb and the host, we managed to get most of our money refunded. To this day, none of us fully understand what happened. Were the cries for help and the masked men part of a sinister trap? Was the woman involved, or was she simply a deranged local? We may never know. All I know is that I'll never rent a house in the middle of nowhere again, and the girls certainly won't either. It was Memorial Day weekend in 2021, and with the world starting to recover from the pandemic, people were eager to celebrate. My friends and I were no exception. Our friend Liam had access to his dad's impressive boat, and we planned to take it out for a big boat meetup on the bay. Liam came from a well-off family, and we occasionally got to enjoy perks like this. So, it was me, Ethan, Chris, and Liam cruising out to meet other boats in the shallow part of the bay. We tied up our boat alongside a bunch of others, and soon enough, everyone was hopping from boat to boat, mingling, drinking, and wading through the shallow waters. The alcohol flowed freely, and before long, we were all pretty drunk, especially Liam. Unfortunately, none of us realized just how much he'd had to drink until it became clear that Liam was in no shape to drive the boat back. I told Liam to lie down in the cabin and sleep it off. Time passed, and as the sun started to set, the other boats began leaving one by one. Soon, it was just us, Liam still passed out below deck, alone on the bay. We figured we'd have to wait until he sobered up before heading back. As the sun disappeared and Liam finally woke up, we thought he was sober enough to get us home. As we navigated through the bay, we noticed another boat's lights following closely behind us. Liam started to freak out, thinking it might be the bay police. Worried about being caught drunk, he kept the boat steady, trying not to raise suspicion. We entered the narrow canal that led to Liam's house, but the boat kept following us. Liam grew increasingly anxious, fearing a DUI would mean losing his boating license, and worse, his father's wrath. The canal was a no-wake zone, so we had to slow down, allowing the boat behind us to get even closer. We were sure it was the police, so we started hiding the beer cans and bracing ourselves for the worst. Liam docked the boat at his house, and as we watched the other boat approach, we realized it wasn't the police at all. Instead, it was a boat with 3 men standing silently on the back, staring at us with an unsettling intensity. Liam muttered, "Who the hell are they?" He knew everyone on the canal and was certain he had never seen this boat before. The men didn't respond, just kept glaring at us as they passed. Relieved that it wasn't the police but still spooked, we tried to shake off the uneasiness. Liam was rattled, though, unsettled by the strangers following us so far down the canal. I tried to reassure him by suggesting they were just visiting for Memorial Day, but Liam wasn't convinced. After tying up the boat, we headed inside. Liam's parents were out of town, so we had the house to ourselves. We considered throwing a last-minute pool party, but decided to keep it low-key, just hanging out by the pool. Then, that same boat passed by the house again, the men still staring at us, but this time Liam didn't say anything. At some point, I must have passed out because the next thing I remember was waking up in the middle of the night with a dry throat. I stumbled to the kitchen to get some water, but as soon as I entered, I froze. Standing in front of me was a man, dressed all in black, wearing a ski mask and holding a gun. I didn't scream. The man pointed the gun at me and quietly ordered me not to make a sound. My heart pounded as fear washed over me. He asked where the owner of the house was, and I shakily told him I didn't know. Then he asked me to show him the master bedroom. Trembling, I led him upstairs. As we reached the top of the stairs, I realized there was another man behind me, also in all black and armed. They ordered me to wake Liam without causing any noise. I gently shook him awake, and he immediately panicked, but was silenced when the men pointed the guns at him. They demanded to know where the family safe was. Liam, terrified, led them to his parents' bedroom and showed them the hidden safe. They forced Liam to call his dad to get the combination. Liam explained the situation, and his dad, fearing for our safety, reluctantly gave the combination. The men quickly emptied the safe, cash, jewelry, important documents, and stuffed everything into a bag. Without saying another word, they sprinted out of the house. We didn't hear any cars driving away, which made us think they had parked their getaway vehicle further down the street. Shaken and terrified, we immediately called the police. Liam also posted on social media, hoping someone might recognize the men. Despite our efforts, no one could identify them. We suspect the men on the boat had been watching us, following us home because they knew Liam's family had money and saw an opportunity. I've never been so scared in my life. One wrong move, and I could have been killed. That night changed everything for us, and I'll never forget the feeling of sheer terror standing in front of that man with a gun. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our stories and would like to hear more, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you captivating tales and new content every week. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We appreciate every one of you for being a part of our storytelling journey.